Hello, today is Friday, January 20th, 2023. I'm Joe Schmidt from TC2, and this is Staying Connected. One of the topics highlighted in the article, What to Expect in 2023, that we recently posted on our websites at LB3 and TC2, is about telecom expense management and why TEM is going to be more important than ever in 2023. So why is that? Well, telecom and other ICT billing has always been pretty complex, and it's also been pretty lousy. And when I say lousy, I mean it's hard for a mere mortal to understand, and often it's just inaccurate. Fortunately, I'm joined today by two people who are not mere mortals when it comes to ICT billing. With me are my fellow TC2 directors, Theresa Knutson and Julie Gardner. And they are the leads of TC2's contract compliance and optimization practice. And they work extensively with TEM providers, both in competitive procurements and in supporting live environments for our TC2 clients. Hey, Theresa and Julie, thanks for joining me today to talk about why TEM is on the radar in 2023.
Hey, Joe, thanks. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Joe.
Okay, hey, I just remembered something. Didn't you recently make a change to the CCO practice?
Actually, we did. We've just introduced something that we're calling Financial Management for Technology, or FMT for short. And with FMT, we actually review an enterprise's technology-related financials and processes in order to help drive improvements and basically achieve better reporting. And this FMT practice goes hand in hand with TEM because that's where you see how these transformational impacts taking place and how they impact your bottom line. And we found in our experience that oftentimes the data in the TEM platforms is not fully utilized, or in some cases, it needs a bit of work to make it truly valuable.
Okay, so that helps explain why 2023 is the year of TEM.
Well, Joe, every year should really be the year of TEM. As you pointed out, ICT billing is very complex. It's hard to understand, and it's often inaccurate. Now, the TEM industry didn't even exist 20 years ago. But with deregulation, consolidation of the providers, and all of the new providers and technology that have come along since then, well, everything's gotten a lot more complicated than it even was. Companies can't depend on that one person with a spreadsheet any longer, and they certainly can't count on their ICT providers to step up and help. Most of those providers now have slimmed down account teams and are asking customers to self-service. Thus, TEM is very important for enterprise customers. We've also seen an increase in the number of companies that are taking their TEM services out to bid, even for those that have had long-term TEM suppliers in place. And we're also seeing companies go out for TEM services for the first time, looking to RFP those services.
Yeah, and like Julie said, there are now more suppliers and more technology that companies are using, and TEM is expanding to meet those needs. TEM services now cover like a broader range of spend categories, not just wireline and wireless services, but managed services, wire and cloud, and even supporting the entire quote to order provisioning lifecycle. For provisioning, TEM companies could administratively solicit quotes from an agreed upon vendor set, then execute that order from the approved quote and follow that all the way through service delivery. This provisioning service wrapper allows you to tie the entire MACD lifecycle of the service so it's accurately billed and you're paying for what you ordered and you stop paying for things when a disconnect has been placed.
Hey, Theresa, it strikes me that in most client-vendor relationships, the incumbent usually has the advantage over a newcomer. You have the service installed, it's working, you know how to manage it. You have your account management sorted, and the list goes on. But what I see in the TEM industry, though, is that most companies are dissatisfied with their TEM provider. Is that an overstatement?
Well, I think if you look hard enough, you'll always find someone somewhere who is less than thrilled with their TEM provider. But you know what? I think oftentimes companies need to look at themselves first to see what's the root cause of those problems. And I see a whole list of things that cause problems with that relationship. So, for example, are you providing your TEM company copies of your contracts and all the amendments as they're executed? Are you sharing your site list with them on a regular basis? Have you integrated TEM into your CMDB? Have you reviewed the naming conventions that the TEM provider is using for inventory so it matches your expectations? And, ultimately, are you sending a file back to the TEM provider that shows which payments have been made on which invoices? So that's kind of a short list of issues where we see in the relationships that can cause problems. But we've identified solutions to address most of these issues. And those solutions include helping companies establish the correct vendor management structure over the TEM relationship. We help them improve internal contract knowledge of what's actually in your contract, the SOW and SLAs. And if you're in a competitive environment, we actually have come up with the requirement to have a fully dedicated reporting and financial resource included in that contract so that the TEM data is better utilized and vetted. And this additional resource is incremental to the normal shared account team structures that TEM providers typically use.
So absolutely, there's ways to improve those relationships using the various points Theresa just made. But on the other hand, I definitely hear complaints from companies like, how did you not catch this? Why did we have to hire somebody else to come in and find this error? How did you miss it? Of course, where's my inventory? Why is my inventory not accurate? Where's my reporting, including my SLAs? Oftentimes, that's not being proactively managed and vetted with the client. There's oftentimes with the inventory side of things, a misclassification of the spend between voice, data, and wireless. There's incorrect site information loaded. Late payment fees aren't always tracked and reported on. And there's a general, I think, consensus amongst some clients that they don't see their TEMs really taking initiative to follow up on issues, resolve issues in a timely manner, and report back. There's also, I think, the perception that the account teams turn over fairly regularly. They tend to be younger and they have an overpromise, under-delivery style. All of that creates, I think, some tension with large enterprise users managing their TEM and using their TEM to the full effect.
Yeah, and companies really need to learn to work with their TEM providers. I mean, the stakes are just too high. We see more of our clients asking the TEM providers to do more to keep their ICT costs in check. So we think 2023 is definitely the year of TEM because companies are going to rely more heavily on these enhanced services that the TEM companies provide. And increasingly, they expect better integration with their systems and inventory databases like the CMDB and ServiceNow. And these integrations are especially critical if you're utilizing the TEM for the provisioning services.
And there are many other things that enterprises can do to help improve your relationship. Number one, know your contract with your TEM and know the SLAs. We talked about reporting. You need to be getting that reporting. Know how to use your TEM portal. You need to be validating the inventory, reviewing it, making updates, and most importantly, have a process that you and your team, including your TEM team, are using to keep that inventory up to date. Most clients have a dynamic environment. Static inventory is not going to work. You need to be running reports to give you insights into your spend. You need to be looking at credit balances on your account, late payment fees, inventory exception reports. Very critical that you're getting that reporting. You also need to coordinate with your finance team on that month-end accrual information, what's being provided by the TEM, and ensuring that that data is accurate and reflects the correct information from a financial reporting perspective. You also need to meet with your TEM regularly to review open disputes and the optimization recommendations. And if those disputes aren't getting resolved within, we used to say 2 to 3 months, but the reality is most suppliers are now 3 to 4. But if you're not getting a reasonable resolution and updates, then you need to get involved in escalations and understand how that's reported against SLA performance for your TEM provider.
Yeah. And I guess ultimately, if you're dissatisfied, you might be looking to buy TEM services from a different company. But my advice is generally take a look at trying to fix your relationship before switching vendors because it's much easier to fix than it is to change. But treat your TEM provider as an integral part of your team. You should be meeting with them and talking with them regularly. Change, when you talk about a procurement effort around TEM, is very disruptive in your environment. You are basically changing how invoices are coming in, processed and paid, and that can be disruptive and lead to some risk. And also recognize taking TEM services to market and actually implementing a new service provider can take many months. So ultimately, you're doing a lot of work for many months until you get ultimately what you want, which is an accurate inventory. So if you can take a look at fixing your current relationship, give that a try first, but really start there. And if you're not sure if your TEM provider is doing a good job for you, you can engage a third-party auditor to review the invoices and the accuracy and see if anything's being missed. And that's a really good health check to know if your TEM provider is doing a good job. That's a service that Tech Caliber provides in our CCO practice. But ultimately, we recognize that sometimes change is just inevitable. And so taking your TEM services to market can be really insightful for you in terms of what the service offerings look like. I think one of the things that was kind of shocking to me in the course of doing several TEM RFPs this year is that the incumbents are also asked to provide a new proposal. And sometimes they propose a totally different solution to their current client than they're providing today. And it kind of baffles me that the TEM providers aren't looking at their relationships and making sure that their clients are in the most current version of the software and they're doing these proactive things they shouldn't have to wait for an RFP to really look at the service delivery for their current customers.
Okay, thank you, Theresa, and thank you as well, Julie. I do appreciate you two sharing your insights, and I can actually see why TEM should be top of mind for enterprises in 2023. If you would like to learn more about what TEM can do for you, or if you have other ICT needs, you can contact Theresa or Julie, me, or any of our LB3 and TC2 colleagues by giving us a call or dropping us an email. You can also stay up to date by subscribing to Staying Connected, by checking out our websites, and by following us on LinkedIn.